Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Naya Yulika and I'm going to explain some question about transgender. So the first question is, what is the meaning of transgender and what does Islam say about it? So a transgender person is someone whose internal gender identity does not match the sex they were assigned at birth. Islamic discussion on the topic acknowledged that classical Islamic texts did not directly discuss modern transgender identities. However, some contemporary scholars consider the broader category of gender variance, so often drawing parallel with historical discussion about khuntsa or intersex individuals. In Islamic thought, the focus is on upholding compassion while encouraging a case-by-case evaluation, and scholars weigh factors like psychological distress and physical well-being before issuing any rulings. And ultimately, the discussion centers on respecting human dignity while adhering to the view what the body is a creation of Allah that is inherently ordered. Next question. What is the meaning of transsexuality or how does Islam see it? So transsexuality generally refers to individuals who not only identify with a gender different from the sex assigned at birth, but also seek medical or surgical procedures to align their bodies with their gender identity. So in Islamic discussion, this issue is typically considered alongside that of transgender identity. Some scholars argue that if the individual's gender dysphoria is linked to inherent biological or intersex traits, which cause genuine distress, then gender reassignment might be allowed under strict conditions after thorough examination by experts in both medicine and Islamic law. However, if such procedures are pursued solely out of personal desire without an underlying condition, they are often viewed more critically. Thus, Islamic ruling on transsexuality tend to be context specific and involve detailed scholarly scrutiny. Next question. What is the meaning of khuntsa? So the term khuntsa traditionally refers to intersex individuals, people born with ambiguous or dual physical characteristics that do not align clearly with typical male or female classification. And classical Islamic jurisprudence provides detailed guidance for dealing with khuntsa cases, addressing their unique legal and ritual needs, such as determining responsibility in prayer, inheritance, and social roles. And jurists usually evaluate the predominant characteristic over time or through medical assessment in order to assign a gender for legal purpose. The treatment of khuntsa reflects an attempt to balance compassion, practical consideration, and the understanding of human diversity as part of Allah's creation. Next, what is the meaning of mukhannats? So, mukhannats is a term used in Islamic literature to describe men who show traits or behavior that are typically considered feminine. And classical texts often discuss this deviation from standard gender expression with disapproval, emphasizing the importance of adhering to established gender roles as defined by cultural and religious norms. However, it is important to note that while the term is historically pejorative, the broader conversation in modern context sometimes revisits this classification to understand social practices and attitude toward gender nonconformity. And the discussion around mukhannats continue to be part of larger debates on gender roles and expression in societies influenced by Islamic teaching. Next question. What is the meaning of mutarajjilat? So mutarajjilat refers to women who displays traits or behavior typically associated with men. And this term, like mukhannats for men, historically signified a deviation from expected gender norms. In traditional discussions, such individuals might have drawn criticism for stepping outside prescribed gender roles. However, contemporary discourse sometimes reconsiders their categories, exploring how cultural expectations shape our views on gender. The label provoked debates on the balance between biological and behavioral traits, as well as the flexibility of gender roles in different historical and societal contexts. Next question. If a transgender individual dies, according to Islam, how should the body be treated following his or her assigned gender or his or her desired gender? So the treatment of a deceased transgender individual under Islamic law is one of the more nuanced issue. Traditionally, Islamic ritual practices such as bathing, shrouding, and burial rites have been determined by the biological sex assigned at birth. However, if there has been a well-documented and scholarly validated gender transition supported by rigorous medical evidence and expert religious consultation, some contemporary opinions propose that the individual's lived gender should be honored. In such cases, jurists would carefully assess the legitimacy of the transition and the evidence supporting it before determining the most respectful and appropriate treatment at that. And this approach aims to strike a balance between traditional practices and the compassionate recognition of an individual's affirmed identity. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.